Hi, I'm Ryan Engelbrecht with Storm Guard Roofing and Construction, and we've been called out to do an inspection on this single-story ranch building to look at the roof to see if it has any issues, how much life is left on it. So we're going to go ahead and go up and do a thorough inspection. This roof has some age to it. It's a little over 20 years old, so it's close to end of life. One of the things that we inspect is we look for granule loss. So here's an example where the granules that are on top of the shingle, we have about 50% loss. Problem with that is that now the sun can bake the asphalt that's underneath the granules, and eventually the shingle will crack and allow water to penetrate into the building. As we get heavy granule loss, we want to watch for that, and if it's getting close to end of life, we want the homeowner to keep an eye out for leaks. Then we know it needs to be changed out and put a new roof on. Here we're just taking a look at the gutters and the granule loss. These gutters are pretty new and there's quite a bit of granule loss. We have another vent hood for the roof. This is typically for a kitchen exhaust fan. Sometimes there's smaller versions for a bathroom vent fan. This is how the air gets out when the fan is on. And here we have a situation where we had a little bit of water coming into the house, so we came up and inspected this area. And as you can see, we've got some heavy shingle damage here. The shingle is no longer sealed. There's a lot of deterioration of shingle. This has been going on for a long time. You can see the fiberglass fibers that are inside the shingle. Those have become grayed out. That's a sign that those have been exposed for a long time. So we've just got a lot of damage here, probably from ice damming, ice building up behind here, and just over time has broken down the shingle and starting to allow water to get into the building up through this top area here. So what we've got two options. If we're going to replace the roof, we always replace these with new. We're going to make sure everything's flashed correctly. If we don't replace the roof right away, then we'll go ahead and just swap this out, take this out, replace the shingles, put a new vent hood in. We'll run ice and water shield all the way around it so that even if the shingles do break down, we've got a nice pool liner like material underneath the shingles to make sure water cannot get in. One of the things we check for on a roof inspection is to see if we've lost the seal. So here you can see this seal is no longer stuck down. So in a windstorm, this will flap up, allows debris to get in here, dirt and debris, and eventually wind-driven rain can get in here and then get at the nails. And where the nail is, water can penetrate down into the house from the shingle no longer being sealed down. Water can blow in here and start to leak. So this is something we look for. So that's another sign that your roof is getting toward end of life. Most houses have ventilation stacks in them. This one is particular is for the sewer system, allows the air in the sewer to breathe inside the house. And what we've got is we've got a flashing and a flashing boot around this pipe. As you can see, this flashing boot is deteriorated due to its age, and it's no longer sealing water out. So rain hits this, runs down, and can now start making its way into the house or the building. So this is a sign of this flashing boot needs to be changed out. So we would go ahead and inspect these and then replace these so that water can no longer penetrate into the house. Here's another area that we look at. So when we have flashings that are on a roof, we're looking to see if we have exposed nails. So we have exposed nails here. Here's a vent for the attic. We have exposed nails here. And what I mean by exposed is that these can allow water to seep down into the building or into the house. These should be caulked, have a caulk cap on top of them so water cannot get in. So this is why you want to pick a roofer that cares about your roof and wants to build a great product. They're not going to leave things like this undone where you're going to get a little bit of water seepage into the house. As we're inspecting the roof, we're also looking for damage to the shingles. Here's an example where we've got lost granules. So we've got a circular pattern, which could have been maybe from a hailstorm. you end up with a little bit of a bruise, similar to a bruise on a piece of fruit, where most of the granules are missing, and now the sun will go ahead and bake that asphalt. Eventually it's going to crack and then creates a pathway for water to get down into the house. So as we inspect, we're looking for these, and we're just tallying them up to determine how bad the roof is and when it needs replacement. A lot of houses will leak where there's two different planes, where we've got a roof plane and a wall plane, or something coming out of the roof. That's typically where we're going to find our leaks. So we're going to inspect the flashings here. We're looking to make sure that the shingles are still down tight. Make sure we've got flashings all the way along this wall so we can see them here. We've got some lifted shingles starting to break down. Here's an example where we've got wood siding and we're starting to see pretty heavy deterioration, and it's because the siding is a little too close to the roof. So in the wintertime, you get snow stacked up here or rain running down here, and what happens is it starts to leach up through the bottom of the siding, and over time you start to see the siding break down, the paint comes off, the wood starts to deteriorate. So we always recommend that we take that siding up and allow 1 to 2 inches of gap here so that that doesn't leach water up and break down the siding over time. Large trees hanging over a roof sometimes are bad. What they do is they don't allow the sun to dry the roof off. So you start to get algae growth, and in this case we have lichen growth. And what happens with lichen is when it starts to break off, it takes all of the granules with. So it grows around the granules, then it gets flaked off or pulled off, and you end up having these spots, again with all granule loss, which is going to eventually lead to a leaking roof. In these cases, we recommend that homeowners do not try to clean this off, because as you do, it takes the granules with. You just leave it. If you can trim the tree back a little bit so that this can get more sun, that's better. But as you can see, we've got a lot of lichen and a lot of algae growth, which is going to shorten the life of the roof. Sometimes you'll see these black streaks. Those black streaks are from algae. So what happens on the north side of a house, or if you've got a big tree where the sun can't dry out the roof, little by little over time, algae will start to build up and grow, and you'll get these black streaks. That's algae on the roof. What you don't want to do is come up and power wash that off or scrub it off, because you'll start taking the granules off the roof, which could lead to leaks down the road. What we do is when we put a new shingle on, we use a Owens Corning, typically a Duration or a nicer shingle that has copper granules on the top of the shingle. And what that does is that prevents algae growth for 15 years or more. So we recommend using a good quality shingle like an Owens Corning or a Certainty that's going to have resistance to algae over time, so that you don't get the black streaks. We've got a chimney. This is an area that tends to leak a lot on roofs. You get snow and ice that sits behind them, and over time the water makes its way in through the shingles break down. While we're not masons, we just do a quick inspection, look for cracks in the cap, and let the homeowner know if it's in rough shape. We'll also take a look at the brick and the mortar and just look for breakdown in the mortar, because we don't want water, snow, and ice to get in and start breaking down this brick. On a wider chimney like this or wider, we like to see what's called a cricket. It's going to be a V shape behind here, so we can't get snow and ice. If we replace this roof, we would build a little cricket in here so water can't sit there and freeze. It goes out and around. We're also inspecting the flashing and the counter flashing. So this is counter flashing, which is caulked to the chimney. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. Here we have caulk over the fasteners, which is good. That's what we like to see. We're looking to make sure there's no areas for water penetration, especially on top and around the side. And then looking at the fasteners on the front, here we can see they're caulked, which is good. Here we'd like to see a little caulk here and here. Looks like this one could use just a little bit of work. We've seen worse, but this is a high propensity for leaking is at the chimney.